Drive on to your baby. What are we upgrading today? Oh boy, that's close. 360. Let's do 60. Let's do you. I don't know why my guy's sketching out, but tick tock on the tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. We going tick tock. Ooh, Tempest. Okay, that's where we're going. Okadoke, let's roll. Today I want to test out 4K on a stream. Let's see if we can do it. Here, it was in low. Yep. Let's try 4K. Here we go. Okay. Well, we'll go to you in a second. Just get me somewhere and then I'll join you. So you can connect to my phone. I could just put you oh, easy there. Change my name. I'm not Everesting right now. Everested. Alright. This is going. You're going. That should be good. Just keep there. And we're back. We're going. Okay. Welcome back. Oh. Today is just 60 minutes recovery. Just did 45-minute swim. Easy. We'll see how I feel. I think it's far from recovered, but I didn't sleep really much at all. It was a horrible sleep, actually. I think it was just like brain was just way too active, restless. So it was a really poor sleep. But I think tonight should sleep like a baby, and then tomorrow feel pretty good. I actually feel okay, but yeah, the body's like when I was swimming, I was okay. My feet were kind of cramping a bit, but it was okay. Like, stroke actually felt quite good, but yeah, feet were definitely cramping, and so just gotta be good nutritionally today, and yes, shake out the legs here on the bike, and yeah, go through the day. And what's next? So I think since the effort, I don't think too much has changed based on, I was watching what I said right after, and I think there are so many different layers to it. Like always, with an effort of that length, it's always hard to just like give like one impression. There's a bunch of things that come to mind. It was, I think the pacing was really good, until it wasn't. And I think it was just like the 3.5 to 4 hour power was mind-boggling how good it was. And it did feel like, as I was going along, like I felt like I was holding back the whole time. I thought like, yeah, I'm gonna have another gear, and then my goodness, totally out of left field, the thing just really quickly. And it was on that climb, which would have been the 38th climb out of 56. On that climb, it was like, it wasn't even the full thing. It was like the last 30 seconds of that climb were just really hard feeling all of a sudden. And then got on the descent and was like, holy smokes, my head's spinning. I just feel like that feeling where when I bonk, usually it's like my hands and feet kind of feel like almost disconnected. Like it just feels like there's like no weight to them at all. Like it's just it's like a really weird feeling to describe. It's just they're not there. And that was on number, this is pretty good actually, I think. I'm in 4K right now. But let me see, is it able to actually go in 4K? It's 1080p. Maybe I gotta change an OBS setting, but it looks pretty good on my end. Smooth. And so, yeah, I think it was very sudden. And then you think about it, and you're like, these are always the thoughts that go through your mind. You're like, was that my brain playing games with me? You know? Or was I like just like, how can you bonk on that many grams of carbs an hour? Like, it is sometimes perplexing. It's just like, I think so. I still need to work everything out. But what it ended up preliminarily, I had it at 143.3 grams, because in the 2 red bottles was doing this right now, 150 plus 155 plus 105, plus 100 plus 100 plus 155 plus cans of Red Bulls are 50 apiece with 2 of them. So if I include the warm-up, that's 144.2 grams an hour, including the warm-up. And so it's like, that is a huge amount. Not stupid, but a good amount, I would say. And give me 1 second. Normally I have a little snack before my rides, but today was like I'm only riding an hour. Just have a little bar, get on the bike, so I could start fully recovering. Yeah, so it is kind of like, how is that possible? But at the same time, 2 things. Just because you're taking 143 or 44 grams an hour does not mean necessarily that you're absorbing 144 grams an hour. There are limitations. The biggest one is kind of the first line of it, which is, where's that going? Where's step 1? Like after your mouth, I mean. Because you could absorb a little bit in your mouth. Like with salivary amylase there, it could break down some sugar. But after that, I mean, what's the main part? Stomach. It's going to go into your stomach. So, how fast is the stomach getting emptied and then absorption occurring? And so, just because you're taking 144 does not necessarily mean, like, I don't understand how my body could bonk on 144 grams an hour. For all you know, you might actually only be absorbing 80 of that, 90 of that, whatever. Because there are limitations, we've got a break in the group here. Someone's not closing gaps. But a lot of things will affect that emptying. Dehydration being one of them. If you're dehydrated, that's going to slow things down a lot. The intensity that you're at, right, can be hard to take, to be actually absorb it at such a high intensity, and to digest it. And so what, like, I kind of felt like I had, it did feel like there was just a lot sitting in my stomach. Because I could feel it, like, I could look down, and, like, it was like, that was not what my stomach normally looks like. Normally we have quite a defined six-pack, and here it's like, nope, far from it. We got a pot belly, you know, like, it's, like, just so distended, bloated. And so, yeah, I don't think I was dehydrated. That was what was affecting it. I think there's just so many things that can impact that. It's just, the intensity is so high. It's just hard to actually kind of stomach all of that. And so, even so, I think you're probably taking a good amount. But you know, it's not, it wasn't like cardiovascular. Why do we keep getting breaks in the group, guys? Close the gaps. You distracted me from what I'm wanting to say. It's not coming out right because we're losing the group here. Like, how are we losing the group on Tempest? I am on like the slowest bike in the game, but still, shouldn't be losing it. Give me a second and catch back up. These guys, close the gap. Look at the gap in front of the guy in the yellow there. Let's go. I shouldn't be having to push 3.5 watts per kilo to stay with the C group right now. Like, holy smokes. Like, it's a 2.9. But we're getting caught behind people going 2.2. And then we're getting sucked in their draft. It's going to take like 4. Or a power up. Look at the gap in front of the 2 orange. Let's go. Get back to the group. It should not take 3.5 watts per kilo to get onto a C group. That shouldn't have happened there. Anyways, we're back. So what I was going to say is there's a lot of different types of fatigue too. And so I look at yesterday and I'm like, how is that possible? And it's like, well, there's probably a component too, which is just pure, like, central fatigue. There is a massive, and Matthias had asked it yesterday, there is a massive mental component to the radial towers climb, in that you are needing intense focus for a very long period of time. And also, with what the goal power was, needing to push very close to lactate threshold for essentially 4 hours straight, which some would say, many would say, I think, is almost impossible, right? Like, can you imagine writing for someone a workout, or writing yourself a workout that said, okay, so today's set, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is a 2.9 C group. Is this bike, and it is, partly the bike is insanely slow, but I need to upgrade the Zwift bikes to be able to get to the upgrading the Tron. You need to upgrade 3 Zwift bikes, but this is just stupid. Like, kind of unrealistic that you wouldn't be able to stay at any type of a power. I should not be having to push 200 watts at the back of the group here. That's just silly. As I said, it's a 2.9 group, and so far we're above that in the draft. Have not seen the front. 3.4. Anyways. See if we can get back on. It's not that it's taken much effort, but I'm just saying that I thought this was going to be just sit at 170. Not pay attention here, because if I lose focus for like a second, my guy's off the back. And it's like, how is that even possible? I actually don't understand how that's possible. Are we really saying that this bike is that slow? it'd be hard to lose a group this size at the back when, you know, the front's pushing 180. Weird. Anyway, sometimes the draft is weird in Zwift. So anyways, the point of what I was going to say was, and this jersey is so hot. Whoops. If you wrote to someone or wrote a workout for yourself and said, all right, here's a workout. You're going to do 40, let's say. You're going to do 40 times 4.5 minutes at, you know, 95, 96% of your FTP. And you're going to do that on a minute 15 recovery. If you wrote that as a workout for someone, I would be like, so let's just work this out. 4.5 minutes, 10 of them, it's 45 minutes. So you're saying 3 hours. You want me to do 3 hours at, say, you know, 95, 96%. And you want me to do that within, what would it be, 3 hours 45, something like that, 3 hours 50? That'd be an insane workout. Like, you know, it'd be, and that's assuming that we're not already at threshold. But that's like a, and oh, the other component too is, and I want you to do so where you're going to have really long stretches where I think on every single one of those climbs, the average cadence, because it's a definite component, the average cadence on each of those climbs is going to be like 65 RPM. So you're going to do 3 hours at basically high sweet spot, zone 4, at 65 RPM. That's a huge workout. Like, unrealistic, I would say. I don't think anybody's ever going to write that. And then to say, oh, by the way, that's actually not the end of it. There's another 16 to go after. So, yeah, no, it's 4.5 hours of climbing. So 4.5 hours at, you know, 95, 96% FTP within 5.5. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And so there's a definite component when you're looking at fatigue, I think, where it's like there's mental fatigue plays into it, where, you know, at a certain point sometimes maybe blood sugar is okay, right? And so technically speaking, it's like, is it kind of underneath that critical level where then you have a complete bonk? Maybe. It might be close, but then putting it over the top might be the mental side of being like, it's been a really long time with intense focus and pushing. And so even though maybe you're like close to like full on bonk, you know what? I'm gonna just shut things down right now because I'm exhausted, right? And I don't even want to let it get to that point. So I'm smoked. We know that it's not aerobic fatigue, right? We know that it's not, you know, lack of fitness, because if you look at it, the heart rate kept responding throughout, in that even when I was going through that rough patch, the heart rate was in fact lower, right? It wasn't like, you know, I was pushing 80 watts less or 60 watts less, but the heart rate was the same. No, the heart rate did go down. It went into the 140s as averages on the climbs. It was averaging at that point about 165 per climb, which is threshold. Like that is firmly threshold. Whatever the power is that's threshold heart rate, I know. And on the next few there, it was down to the 150s, the low 150s. There was one that I think was 143. So like, the heart rate did in fact come down. And it did keep recovering between climbs. So I don't think it's like lack of fitness, definitely not. I think it is more just a combination of blood sugars getting very low because you're not really absorbing everything that you are putting down. You might be putting down a lot. This kind of, I'm tying everything together now. You might be putting down a lot at 144 grams an hour. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting it. Which you're likely not, considering the amount of distension in the stomach, the amount of bloating, the amount of burping that I'm having, the fact that I do feel like, man, throwing up would probably hurt like hell, but it would probably also help a lot. And so it's definitely not being absorbed at that point. And I think it's a combination of that, and at that point there is a significant amount of central fatigue, where it's just, you've been pushing very close to your limit for 4 hours. That's tiring. Like, as I said, so there's going to be a component where your brain is just going to be playing games. It's going to be real, and it doesn't mean it's not, but it's like, there's a definite component where your brain is going to be like, I am exhausted. It's like, I'm pushing so hard for so long, I'm exhausted. And there's still a lot to go. So, even if you're close, and you might be completely tapped out, because, I could feel like one of the climbs where I stopped pedaling, my feet were shaking, like doing that shake, and it was just like, blood sugar was definitely extremely low. But then, on top of that, it's also, I'm tired. So I think that's what happened. Long-winded way of saying it's a combination of things. Do I think pacing it different would have helped yesterday? I don't think so, actually. Right? Like, with how long it went into it before, like, would taking 5 watts off help? I'm not a robot, too. It's like, some climbs, the power is just going to spike up a little bit around that little steep section. And it is really an easy place to push a lot of power on the radial tower. It's so steep, right? Think, like, even when I have absolutely nothing in my legs on those final, 19 climbs, the average across the final 19 was still 295 watts. Like, so that's not insignificant power. It's 4.9 watts per kilo, right, for the final 19 climbs. And so it is just a part where it's just like, it's I do find it interesting on the radial tower, seeing other people Everest there, and it's got to be the gear combos, because I don't understand how you can actually push like 150 watts there. Like, with my gearing, if I was to say, like, alright, I'm going to take the climb off here and ride 180, I think my RPM would have to be like 35 to be able to do that. Like, it's so steep that I don't know how, like, with, as I said, with my gearing, it's hard not to push any power. And that's why I say, in terms of being maybe a smidge above the power, you know, in the first half, it's like, again, I'm not a robot, so whether it's 338, which was the average, or 335, which might be where it should have been, it's like, it's 3 watts, right? It's not like, you know, the goal is 335 and you're sitting at, you know, an average of 345 or 350. You know, the goal is 335. I'm sitting at the 37th climb. The average through 37 climbs was 337 watts. And so it's 337.8. So 338. So I don't think the pacing was like just stupid, you know. I think it was good pacing overall, and I think overall it's just, so this is how I feel about it now. It's like, I think the pacing was good. I think overall it's did the best I could, and you know, it's the fastest solo time in history, second fastest overall, and I think, like, I went for it. I went for the record. It didn't pan out this time for that sub 530, I mean. And I think, like, I was so close, which is in its own, I think, really, really good. Like, the fact that me, a solo rider, is, you know, at the 4-hour mark, you know, with an hour and a half of climbing to go. So I'm at, say, 7,000 meters. At 7,000 meters of an 8,848 meter day, I'm like right there with someone who is a professional cyclist on a well-recognized team in the World Tour teams like Uno X. And so, like, you see them at the biggest races, and this person's on that team. And so I think, yeah, I'm proud of that it's like, through 4 hours, I am right there with some really, really good cyclists. And doing it solo, which, for a number of reasons, is hard. You know, I got the live chat going, which is great and super appreciative, but it's also different. People can understand when, you know, if you have 6 guys, you know, together on the climb with you, and let's just keep going, turning off. Yeah, maybe that'll work. It's a different thing when you got 6 guys on the climb with you, you know, and you're doing it kind of as a group. And yeah, the one person is going to be doing the full thing, but it just helps mentally, helps physically, because you're hitting high speed on the descent. And it's like, to think, like, I was right there with that on my own through 4 hours, I think is really quite good. The 4-hour power is incredibly good. And it does make me think, like, we just extend that out a little further, you know? A little further, a little more power, a little more threshold work, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's not like it's miles away, you know? It's not like, hey, I was on pace through a quarter, and then I fell to pieces, right? It's like I was on pace through 7,000 meters. Like, that's like, you're almost there. If you keep holding 1600 VAM, right, you got whatever that is, like an hour and 35 minutes to go out of a 5 and a bit hour climb. So it's like, I think that's really good work, really good effort. And so, even though of course it would have been nicer to break it, at the same time, it's like, I'm not sure I did anything really wrong on the day. It's not like, oh, I totally messed that or this or that up, right? You know, it was just terribly paced or this or that. Or, you know, I totally messed my nutrition up. I did the same nutrition I've been doing in training. Exact same. Right? And, you know, the fact is, and I know this going in, that the challenge and the everything around the Everest, I know that it's going to be harder than any training session I've done. Right? It's going to push me physically, mentally, beyond what any training session has. And it should. Right? It's like, you know, if I was to say, like, oh, you know, race day, or time trial day in this case, it's going to be easier than any training session I've done. I mean, should it be? You know, should it be easier? I don't think so. I think it, you know, it should be, you know, train hard, race harder. And that's what I did. I trained hard, and I went even harder. The week before, only 7 days before, I went through the halfway at, I believe it was 246 flat. Of course, there were computer problems impacting it a bit. So in all likelihood, probably like 245 flat without the distraction and having to play, you know, tech support while doing it. But here, I went through the half at like 243 mid, like without that little lead-in part. And with it, I think it was 244 flat. So it's like, or what was it, 243 flat. Sorry, 242 mid without the lead-in. Because I think Matthias had me too at 522 pace. I think it was, through the halfway. And so, like, that's really, really quite a strong ride. It doesn't mean I'm done with it, I'll tell you that much. I'm not going to take a run at it, you know, this week or something, but definitely in the future. You got to always do things once, and then you know, right, what it's going to feel like. So that leads me to what's next and what we change. I said yesterday after, oh, no, I'm not doing the Alp Everest next weekend. That was like, I was like 90% sure after yesterday, like, that I wasn't doing the Alp next weekend. Now I'm like, there's a 65% chance that I'm doing the Alp next weekend. And I bet you tomorrow, I bet you that'll be 75. And by Wednesday, depending how my legs are at that point, I bet you it's like, bet you by Wednesday we're something like 95. It's always, people say that all the time, right? Like, you know, they'll finish a marathon tons of people finish a marathon and they're like, never again. I'm never doing that again. Give it a couple days. Right? Give it a couple days and ask me again. Of course, right in the moment, you can't imagine putting yourself through that amount of pain again. But it's just like, give it a few days, you'll get hungry again. You know? And so, I do think for the Alp... Oh, wait. Question came through. Yes. So I need to do that this afternoon. There's the Everesting site. I have an account there. And so, my previous one was verified by the team there. And so, it'll be submitted this afternoon. It'll go through the verification process. And it does take them a little bit of time. But it's not like we're talking about a massive company here, right? Like, there's probably like a few guys, you know, running this thing. And so, it'll take some time. I think probably about, I think the last time was maybe it was 1 week after that I got the message saying it was in the Hall of Fame there, the one that I did on the Alp. And so, I would think by this time next week, it'll probably be up there as well. And yeah, and then the Alp one, if I do that, will be the following week after that. I think with the Alp, what the game plan is right now is I would like to go in without the pressure of being like, okay, last time the solo record to beat was 7:20 by the European there, Michael Knudsen there. And so, now that was the time I was pacing for. I think this time I would like to go in a little bit looser and just be like, I do want to take this as an opportunity for a fact-finding mission and use it as a real kind of look under the hood. So my dream that and I was thinking about it even for this time, is I would like to get the Dexcom G7 there this week. It's at Shoppers. I saw it for 99 bucks. And I know there's some debate in the literature about CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, and whether or not they're actually effective or impactful at all for endurance athletes. And Asker there, who's like the guru of carbs in sport, he had a webinar actually on it a few weeks ago. But he had to pay like 50 bucks. And I was just like, no. So I just went to the actual, did some research on my own and saw, like, it's probably not going to help stave off, like fend off a bonk coming on. But I think where they were seeing the most, one of the reviews, systematic reviews there on it, was saying recovery was where they were seeing potential benefits. And it was kind of like the after the fact analysis. So it wasn't so much like the during, like, uh-oh, I gotta take a gel. You know what I mean? Because look at the blood sugars going down. Like, I don't think it's as much like that. It's more the after. And so I would like to actually, I've always kind of wanted to, whether or not it's hugely impactful or not, I think it'd be incredibly interesting. And this is the kind of thing, it is the kind of thing that really excites me. As I said, it's not cheap at $99, and you know, it only lasts for a couple weeks. Like, it's just one thing. But I think it would be just fascinating to see if it does anything, but it would be really interesting to just see over a ride of that length, like what happens, after the fact, like just see, like I think it could be kind of really cool to have. And so I would like to do this, even if I don't get it. I'd like to take the same sort of idea and be like, I'm going to use this as a fact-finding mission. I'm not really going to go into it being like 720 or bust. I think it's more going to be, if I, depending on how my legs feel, say Wednesday, if it's even possible to do another. Because 180 watts here today, this doesn't tell me that much about whether or not my legs are in a position. But if I put my foot down on the pedals on Wednesday and there's like nothing in them, then yeah, I'm not gonna destroy myself next Sunday. But if I feel okay, then I think I'd like to use this as just like a learning thing, and really kind of, instead of having the pressure right out the gate like the last time, of saying, okay, yeah, so about 295 is what it's going to take to break the record. So maybe start a little bit under that, and then build like we did on that one where we did a fantastic ride, or it was 5 of them. I think this will be similar in that, not similar, but different in that I don't think it would be starting as close to that line. It would be more like, let's take a little bit off, even more so, so that like I could literally get to like halfway and be like, this is an absolute joke kind of thing of a long ride, and then just steadily build it and see like what can we do in the final few. And that would be a really nice way, I think, to like, painful, but a nice way to finish off what has been an incredible period of base, really, which, preparing me for, a more specific time trial training to come. The Everest up the Alp in particular being a much longer ride, I think would be a really great way to kind of cap that off. The radial tower is more intensity, like just high intensity, right? And this is, I think, more, the Alps more just the endurance. Hey Franny, how you doing? Thanks for joining. I think it'd be a really nice way to just kind of finish it off, and not with the pressure of going in being like, as I said, 720 or bust. It's more like, let's cruise along, and then really get working in that second half and see if we can really build it. And if with more research this week, from what I've seen, as I said, it's kind of like sketchy whether or not it's hugely beneficial having the glucose monitor. As I said, it would be, for me, being a really analytical person, data-driven person, I think it would be fascinating. And so I'm going to think more about it this week. Is it worth $99? As more fun kind of present to myself more than anything, like congratulations, you've finished doing, I don't know, here on pace. I think at this point we're on pace to ride over 50,000 kilometers this year, and it's April. I think that'd be a really nice, I gotta say, a nice gift to myself, being like, you've wanted this for years. I've wanted one of those since 2012, when one of my professors, who was like on the front cutting edge of continuous glucose monitors in sport, he worked with one of the top cycling teams. I can't remember their name now, but he worked with them and a lot of professional cyclists, and also Max Domi, if you know, on the Leafs, who has type 1 diabetes. He worked with him and a lot of other athletes, working with continuous glucose monitors, and he had, I think it was like one of the first out there. It was like he was, as I said, top of the like cutting edge stuff. His name was Dr. Riddell, Riddell. You can look him up and see, like, he's been doing research around type 1 because he has type 1 diabetes himself. He's been doing research around it since he started. This has been his main thing, and I remember him talking about it in Exercise Phys 1, which would have been third year university, which would have been 2012, and I wanted it since then. As soon as he started talking about cycling, I remember he talked about this thing he had it on cyclists doing this ultra endurance thing across France. It wasn't the Tour de France, but it was like a Grand Fondo kind of thing. And as soon as he started talking about cycling and sport, I was like, oh, I'm getting myself one of those. That was 14 years ago. Because I was just like, that'd be so cool to see what on earth happens. Thank you. I'm good. I think, like, as I was saying at the beginning, in terms of like that second or that last, let's say 2,000 meters, of course I wish it didn't happen, but looking at the numbers from yesterday, I don't think that I did really anything wrong, like where it was just like, oh, it was just stupid pacing. I think it was overall across the first 37 climbs, it was 3 watts higher than what the goal was, which was the number it was taken to break the record. So it's 3 watts higher than that. So it's like, we're talking 1%. So it's not like, as I've said before, I'm not a robot. Some climbs, you gotta, press on the pedals a little bit harder around that 17% section than the last. And so you get up to 338. And the thing is at that point, and maybe other people are in the same boat, say you get to that, like the final minute of a climb or something, at, 3 watts higher than what was the goal. What are you supposed to do? Like, are you really telling me that with 30 seconds to go, you're like, all right, well, I'm 3 watts ahead of what the goal was, so yeah, I'm gonna just sandbag this last 30 seconds here and, ride at 20 watts lower because, I want to get it to 335, because that was the goal. It's kind of like, well, we're already here, I'm already at 338. There's 30 seconds to go. You may as well just keep it there, instead of just being like, okay, I'm going to stop pedaling, for the next 75 or 30 seconds, sorry, just to get it back down. It's like, I don't know if that will do anything. I really don't think our bodies are that sensitive where it's like 335 versus 337.8. Is that really making the difference between bonking and not? I don't know. Like, I could be wrong, but it just seems to me like that's such a small difference. I don't think, even when you test FTP and it's like, oh, your FTP's, say, 300 watts. If you go out and you do intervals and you're like 302, or let's say 298, is it like, well, I was 298, my FTP is 300, so I mean, I really wasn't even working threshold. So what a failed workout that was. It's like, it's threshold, like, if the effort was there, if it was what it was supposed to be, you're in the range, you're in the ballpark of what it was supposed to be, right? And I really don't think it's that sensitive, where like a 1% drop, if I said, oh, if I drop my power by 1%, I guarantee that, I wouldn't have bonked 4 hours in. Guarantee. It was a 1% difference that did it. No, I don't think so. I think it's a really hard effort, and that's like the main thing. It's a really hard climb, and I'm trying to break the world record, which is going to take a phenomenal amount of power. I went for it, and I had the record, 80% or whatever that is in. It was, we were 6 minutes up, 7 minutes up on it, and then I just got tired. I got really tired. Combination of blood sugar being extremely low at that point, and also I'm just tired, like mentally. There's central fatigue here, where I've been pushing very close to the threshold for 4 hours with almost no breaks. So, like, it's not like you can shut off on the descent. It's basically 4 hours full gas. At a certain point in time, you're going to get tired. And here it came up very quickly. And I think that is, Matthias had asked yesterday, what was the difference between radio tower and this. And I would say what I found, and I was thinking about it last night when I couldn't sleep, was I think like the main difference I found between the two was on the radio tower, the fatigue seemed to sneak up on you much more. And I think the reasoning behind that is that the climbs are so short, at 4.5 minutes long, that like you're not necessarily gonna get super tired on one climb. You're gonna be able to get through that climb, but then it's taking a little bit off each time, and so then you're gonna get to a point where it's accumulated enough that now you're exhausted. The Alp, and it's really hard to explain, but the Alp seemed like it was more obvious, is what I'm saying, when you were getting tired. It was more like you could feel it. You can feel yourself getting into a problematic area, much more so, because the climb was so much longer, at 40 minutes long. Whereas the radio tower, it's like you just kind of blasted through one after another, not really feeling too much like that it's taking that much off, but then it's just kind of chipping away, a little bit each time, and then you just get to a point where it's, okay, I am exhausted, I got nothing. And so that's what I found was the big difference, that the radio tower just really kind of snuck up on you. And the Alp, when I did the Alp there, I felt it coming on early, or much earlier, like on that fourth climb. It was about the halfway mark, and I didn't say anything on the stream, but you'll have seen my power started fading a bit, because I was like, yep, I'm in a tough spot right now, and I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to like let my legs hear me talk, but like, we got to get to the end of this climb now, and I could feel it coming on. And then I finished that climb where the last 5 minutes were really hard, but through the descent and the next one, it was like brutal. But I felt it coming on the Alp for it would have been then about 20 minutes, over a 20-minute span, getting like worse and worse. Blood sugar getting lower and lower. And so I felt it coming on for about 20 minutes, whereas the radio tower was about 30 seconds, literally. It was about 30 seconds on the 38th climb, where it was just, in those 30 seconds, I went from feeling quite good, quite controlled, to, oh my lord, we're in a really bad spot. And I'm hoping that we can, I'm gonna give time back for the next couple climbs, but I need to take as much as humanly possible in these next couple to try to get back, and then make it, maybe I'll lose 4 minutes here, because the time adds, you saw it, like, we went from 4:30 a climb, and then there were a couple at 6 minutes. Just gonna finish this lap out, then I'm done. So I mean, I lost 1.5 minutes per, across 4 or 5 climbs in the next 19 climbs, which is like, there's your difference. 1.5 minutes times 4 is 6 minutes. There's the record, gone. And then you lose 30 seconds, 45 seconds, on the ones that are 300, and you do that 10 times. There's 5 minutes. There's, 5:36, 5:37, 5:38 is what it ends up as. So it adds up really quickly. But overall, I'm feeling good with the day. The wonderful thing with endurance sport is it is days like these. Even if it was a perfect day, let me tell you, I'm the type that even if yesterday I destroyed the record, let's say I did 5:23, right? What I was on pace for at the 4-hour mark. Even if I did 5:23, today's conversation would very much, in all likelihood, be like, yeah, I think if I, just turn it on a little bit earlier, because I saved a little bit too much there, and the descents, I think if I hit that descent a little bit harder in the early stage, I think I could get under 5:20. That's what I'd be saying right now. I guarantee it. And that's just the type of person I am. It's the puzzle that keeps bringing me back let me figure this out. Unfortunately, with how yesterday was, there's even more couple things that need to be figured out. But I don't think with any ride of that length, that's why I said yesterday, there's always going to be something to work on. It's never going to be perfect. And I would say the difference between what makes someone great and not so great is some will get deterred when they have those rough patches enough that, you know, they're like, no, it's too hard, not doing that, don't want to do it. You know, you see people be like, yeah, no, I did one Everest or whatever, and that's it. I don't want to ever do it again. I never want to see the radio tower again. And then there are the people who I think are like, okay, yeah, last 90 minutes were really hard, but we're going to get back to work, and proud of the effort that was done. It's still phenomenal. There's still so many positives to take from the day. There are definitely things to work on. There always are. We're going to work on them, and we're going to give it another go. And we're going to do the best I can that day, and analyze that to death, and then we're going to do it again, and then again and again. And that's why I love it. I love the puzzle. There are a couple messages here. How come you use a power meter, not a trainer? Right now I have the trainer connected. This is Josh again from yesterday. Because this is the power meter I race on outside. And so I like having consistent data once it gets uploaded into my own Training Peaks. So I don't have 3 files of everything. It's just what I race on. Why not? It's a brand new Cork D0 or Axis. It reads within about 1% of the Justo. The Justos depends what power they're at, but on average they're about 1% different. Sometimes less. So, I mean, they're equivalent. $430 a climb. Yeah, so I hope that answers that question, but it's the power meter that I use racing outside. So, why not? Why would I not use it? It's accurate. You could see in the video, if you watched yesterday's video, calibrated after the warm-up. Then we had a problem where I couldn't meet up with my dad, who was at the bottom. Went upstairs, saw where he was, fixed it, came back down here, and hey, we calibrated again. I calibrate the trainer about 50 times. The power meter and the trainer, but the power meter I'm talking about for like what you're seeing on the screen right now, the thing's been calibrated to death. $430 a climb, a little aggressive. I think it was what it needed. It was what it needed to be to break the record. And I wanted to stay within having a shot of it, and that was the goal. Said to my dad before that I wanted to stay like where with 10 left. I had a hope, and I was right there. And then see if I could go even harder on that last. The trainer, by the way, Josh, has been set at 180. If you can see that. I can't read that. What's that power say on the screen? It says 180. So, yep. Exit. Yep. Look how long it takes this guy to slow down. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't think 4:30 was like, it's, as I said, I wanted to give myself a shot, and I did. And I don't think it was, if I was to say pace and be like, I'm gonna hold, 4:35. Even though, again, I said this on the stream earlier today, it's like, I'm not a robot, right? I can't like control it like that much. Sometimes you got to go around the corner there on that steep section, and sometimes you got to put your foot down, and it's power is going to spike up a little bit more than what you had planned. It's hard. It is hard on 100% trainer difficulty, I'll say, to really hold back in some of those sections, to the point that it's just like you're staying super low, like on to where you wanting to be. Like when it hits 17% on 100% trainer difficulty. So the whole time I was in on those sections, I was in 34. It would be 34:23, and so in 34:23, where the chain line still, it's not great. It's okay. I'm not gonna go down to 25 because in 25 the chain line's crap. And 28, not gonna do that at all. But in 34:23, going up that steep section, it is really hard to like hold so far back without having the RPM go down to like 45 or something. I'm already, if you saw yesterday, like I'm already at like 55 RPM on those sections, maybe 60. So, and I'm in probably one of the lowest gears I can be in. I'm one away from the lowest gear I can be in. And so, around those sections, it's like, how much more can I hold back, right? If it goes up to 345 or something like that around that turn, in order to keep the cadence, near 60, it's like, so be it. It's going to have to go up to that, or else if I was to really just be like, no, I'm going to stay bang on 335 watts each time, which will be, a few seconds slower than the 430s you're saying there. If I was to say, oh, no, we're going to stay 335 each time, to be 335 around that section will be under 50 RPM. With a half decent, like, without, the chain being way over. And just sounding like death, just because you're in terrible chain line. But yeah, I think we're not robots, right? I'm not in erg mode, and so maybe it's a few seconds faster. As I was just saying there at the end of the stream, if the goal power is 335, and through 37 climbs I was let me just double check that because I have the spreadsheet open. So through 37 climbs, boom, average those out. Yeah, so 337.76. So 337.8 watts. And so it's like 337.8. The goal is 335. Are we really saying 2.8 watts is the difference? Maybe. But I don't think it's an automatic. I don't think it's like, I think if you took 2.8 watts off that, you would have been golden for all 56. Not blowing up 37 out of 56. Right? And so it's hard to say. Of course, the easiest way to get to the bottom of this is we have to do it again. And then and use yesterday as a learning experience, with the added thing of saying it's still an incredible ride, and it is the fastest solo ever, and yeah, I think like Magnus, who's the world record holder there, he's already wrote to me, huge congratulations, saying it was like an incredible ride. And so yeah, I think it was a good ride, for sure. That I think I'm not gonna say like it was blown. I blew up to the point that I'm like, oh, I'm ashamed of that performance. It was still a really good ride, even with, and it's not like I crumbled to the point that the next 19 were horrendous. The next 19 on that same spreadsheet where I have all the stuff, the next 19 averaged 295, and so with a bunch, and that's assuming. So I'll give you the next 19 just before I go. So after that 37th climb, or 38 climbs. Sorry, 38 climbs. We were, still 337.8. Just had the thing highlighted wrong. The next climbs, 39 to 56. My cells are shifted down, so I'm getting confused here. I put titles to make sure I knew what I was looking at. 324, 300, 270, 298, 302, 300, 304, 285, 256, tough one. 253, really tough one. 301, 293, 296, 300, 296, 298, 298, 305, 316. So there's 10, maybe not 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry, 11. There are 11 climbs within that next 19 that are still above 300 watts or at 300 or above. And so it wasn't a total like just crumble to nothing. It's still really good. And it's got me thinking about more inspired by it, not deterred by it, to just go even better the next time. And I think you always got to do something once, because even though I've done the Everest once on the Alp, to Matthias's point yesterday, the Alp and the radio tower are very different climbs, right? It like they're both 88-48 meters, but they're done in extremely different ways. Whereas one is more of just like a long grind, the Alp, and more like endurance-y. The radio tower does seem that it's more threshold, and getting that threshold as high as you can, combined with obviously endurance of still needing to hold basically high sweet spot threshold for a very long time, but in short punches. So it's not this like kind of long runway each time, where again what I said was you can feel that fatigue coming on quick, like more obvious, whereas the radio tower you can kind of almost get away with it. And that's why I think it happened so suddenly yesterday. It was like you can kind of not realize it creeping up on you because it's done. So like in 4.5 minutes it's done. And so maybe if it extended out another minute or two, then you really would have got into trouble. But because it's done, you're like, I'm still good. And then, but it's just chipping every time. And then it's, boom, gonna hit pretty quick. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why it hit so abruptly. It's not really that it hit abruptly. It's that you didn't notice it coming on when it was. Anyway, that's all for today. So in terms of next, as I said, Wednesday I'm gonna see what the legs are like. Not gonna do a big workout or anything. Just kind of, I'll do some pickups tomorrow. Just really short, like 20 seconds. Always find those are really good for recovery. Jan Frodeno's done the same with his training. Always talking about doing strides after races. I think it really helps. Also for me, swimming. This is just a thing on recovery. Swimming, I think, is probably, I was thinking about it this morning, that I think sleep is the number one tool for recovery we have. Like, you can go to town, with, Normatec recovery boots and, massage guns and this and that and the other. Sleep will always be the best recovery tool out there. Nutrition followed closely behind that, and with nutrition I'm putting in hydration into the mix. But then I am going to throw in my third on that list is I do think movement in the water in particular. Movement in general, but movement in the water I think is number 3. Where it's just like the hydrostatic pressure of the water and everything, the temperature of the water. I think it all. We got 125 to go on this stupid bike. Yeah. Anyways, I think that is one of my biggest recovery tools. And so tomorrow I'll do another swim. Today I did 45 minutes. Tomorrow I'll do another swim. And then hopefully by Wednesday it leaves me thinking like, okay, we're good for the weekend. And as I said, once we get to there, I would like to look at the weekend as more. It'll be on the Alpe d'Huez Zwift. I would like to go in not so much performance focused in terms of like I wanna it's 7:20 Michael's time 7:20 or a bust. I would like to more go into it as I'm here to learn and experiment, and that'll mean starting a little bit more on the conservative side. But I want to learn more about kind of the ultra endurance type rides, which I would say the Alps for sure would kind of go into that category. The Radial Tower is kind of shorter, but the Alp being 7.5 hours, we're into that range where it's long. It's not Matthew left hand last name. It's not him long, where he's doing 7. I think his thing he put out on Instagram was he's doing. Get this, if you don't follow him on Instagram and you're looking for someone to follow for some inspiration in terms of ultra endurance racing and riding, he's doing 60. He's gonna do 16 hours of cycling a day, with a goal of being 400 miles a day, which alone is like. That's 25 miles an hour. Like, that's pretty quick for 16 hours. Very quick. I think he did say that he's doing it up at altitude, where he said he does tend to go, he goes faster, which makes perfect sense. It's like Boulder 70.3 guys do just crazy bike splits on there sometimes. So even though you're getting a little bit of a reduction from the altitude, you're getting more from the speed benefit, but nonetheless 25 miles an hour for 16 hours, I don't care if it's at altitude or it doesn't matter. It's moving, and he's gonna do that not once. Like if I went out and I'm like, tomorrow I'm gonna do a 16-hour ride of 400 miles, I'd be like, that's a serious ride. Holy jumping. I gotta get to bed right now. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon. I gotta get to bed right now. Because that is long. He's doing it for 7 days in a row, though. So he's going to do 16 hours, 400 miles a day for 7 days in a row. The TSS on that must be mind-boggling. I would love to see that Training Peaks after that 7-day period and see what that TSS number is. It must be insane. And to know how many grams. I would love to see what his nutrition is too for that. It would be interesting to follow that along and see kind of like what he's doing. And this is a big thing with the endurance, with the ultra stuff and like the super high volume kind of stuff, which I would say over the last 3 months I've been in that category of doing. I'm doing over 40 hours a week. So over 30 hours a week on the bike, and then run and swim and elliptical, and then strength. But even if I don't count the strength in the mix, even just just the swim, the run, and the bike, you're over 40 hours, and then some. And so at that length, it's really hard to just not be like in, race nutrition mode the entire time. And to actually say like, yeah, no, I'm going to have some, salads, you know what I mean? And like some good, healthy food, like with rich in micronutrients and whatnot. It's like, it's hard to not just be like, yes, so no, I'm having, maltodextrin and fructose all day, and that's, what are you eating for the day, for your daily nutrition? And it's like, well, 1,000 grams of maltodextrin and fructose. And then the rest is like, pasta and waffles. And it's like, okay, like, you gonna do that for like months on end? There must be a salad somewhere in that mix. And so I'd be curious to see what his 16-hour a day, what that nutrition looks like for the 7 days. Like, are you just gels and as I said, drink mixes and whatever for the entire time? Are you fitting in normal food? Like, and if it's normal food, like, is there anything that's not beige? You know what I mean? Like, is there anything that's not just rice and pasta and waffles and pancakes? That'd be interesting. So he's a definite person to follow. Anyway, I'm rambling. I know it. I'm done. And yeah, time for some lunch. And I really do hope, as I said, the number one tool is sleep. And I slept maybe 2 hours last night. I think I was like from about 1 to 3, I was out, like out. And then from about 3 until 9, it was like short spurts. And I think it's quite typical. Normally after races, like in triathlon days, normally after a big race or something, even though everyone always thinks like, oh, you must be super tired, right? You're going to sleep like a baby tonight. Most of the time, not really. I don't think I've ever really slept well after a race. Because it's just like you're so, like, up. You know what I mean? You just feel like you're kind of still in that sympathetic, like, fight or flight kind of thing. And, I mean, you've also had a huge amount of caffeine and whatnot. And it's just like, you're really tired, but you're also, like, restless because your body just doesn't feel like I felt like last night my heart rate was high the entire night, like at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Anyways, in terms of where we are on bikes, these are the 2 bikes I just gotta upgrade, and then I'm pretty much done. 2 Zwift bikes, and then we can actually start doing the where is it? My Tron bike. Because I didn't realize you had to upgrade 3 Zwift bikes. Here. To do this. So you gotta do 3 Zwift branded bikes. But I've already upgraded this guy fully. Project 74 is at max. So this guy boots it. On the downhills. On the uphills it's a brick. But on downhills this thing is crazy fast. And then this guy's insanely fast. And then I gotta upgrade this guy, and I think the Pinarello I'm kind of started. Yeah, I gotta get that one. Apparently it's pretty slow though. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I got time. So especially in early reps, considering going a bit higher. Want to touch on why you climb at very low cadence, especially in early reps. Consider going a bit higher. Sacrifice elevated heart rate to avoid the late. Yeah, it's a definite point, Seth. The 2 things with it. I would love to. I'll say, if I was the type that was able to ride super high cadences and be able to have that ability, it would be wonderful. Interestingly enough, when I'm on Zwift or on an indoor trainer, I love low cadences. and I can sit at them for a really long time really comfortably. And so when I'm on the indoor trainer, I would say just like a normal kind of going along cadence is like 75. And then I am extremely comfortable out of the saddle. I've always been. When on the indoor trainer, I'm able to get so much more power out of the saddle than in, like a huge difference. And when I'm out of the saddle, I'd say my preferred is around 68 RPM. So I think it's why I like Thunderstruck so much as a song, because it actually matches 68 RPM like bang on. It just, like, the rhythm of it goes with it so perfectly. I'm just not that. It's always been a thing. When I'm indoors on the trainer, I just feel like when I'm at a high cadence, I just can't put a lot of power. And I've tried working on it many times, like over the years, where, you know, early days in the season, like I'm doing drills, like trying to like bring up the cadence, you know, high cadence drill, like spin ups and whatnot, and like, okay, I'm gonna sit at, you know, 95 to 100 for, you know, the end of a ride or something like that, and try to like, or, you know, various parts of a ride, trying to bring it up. But then come racing, you know, or if I was doing the Alp to Zwift, like a time trial up the Alp, it's like I go right back to that 65, 68 out of the saddle. Yeah, I mean, probably. I know that that's a great point. That I know. I was speaking with someone who works at CBC Sports. Or we at a wedding actually, a few months back, and he's really good friends with you know, Michael Woods there, and he's actually going to be going into triathlon, it looks like. Mike Woods was one of the best runners in Canada. I think he ran like sub 4. And me and him were actually talking about this too, that when he gets out of the saddle, it's like he looks like a runner. And that's because it's his background there. Yeah, I think like if I can stay, for the Everest, I know if I can stay about 70 to 72, it will make a difference. And I do think it'll make a difference a little bit. It's also I'm trained for that. So I think, funnily enough, I think from yesterday and doing so much at it, I think eventually it's just getting to a point where like I'm extending. So I agree with you that like the yes. So this is what I was going to say to you for before I was off track there. Inside on Zwift, I'm incredibly comfortable out of the saddle pushing low cadences. When I go outside though, I have a 62 tooth on for my TT bike, and even with that on, if you give me 1 second, I just want to see one thing. Stay with me for 1 second, because this will take literally less than a minute. I'll show you. Just loading up my Strava. Let's go. Hurry up. Chop. Okay, here we go. So let's go here. All right. So my last outdoor ride last year. So I did 47K or 46.3K at 47 kilometers an hour. And that was on like rolling terrain. And average RPM, this is with a 62 tooth on, was 83. And there were very little sections where I was actually even under. I don't think I was ever under 75. not once. And so, like, here at the end, when I'm really pushing it, like, this is what I'm most comfortable at the end. When I'm really trying to drive up, we're at 86 RPM. When I'm at my freshest, 84 on average, and then second half, 82 for 83 overall. And I think when I did another one a few days before that, which was a 10-miler. And that one I think was a little bit over 47, 48. Some good hills in it, actually. It's a great course. Where is it? This is aero testing. I think there was one. I'll get it to you another time, but I don't want to keep you here forever and ever. Maybe it was on this week. Anyways, so outside, point of the story is outside, I'm quite comfortable pushing a lot higher cadence, even with quite a beefy chainring on. And inside, it's just, I never seem to be able to do that super smoothly and push any degree of power. So on the 10-miler last year, and this is quite a hilly course, I broke the course record on it. Cody Beals was the one who owned the course record, and Cody's, if you know him, a professional triathlete, really, really good cyclist. I broke his record, and average cadence was 84. And so 84 to 85 is like my comfort zone outside. And inside, if you said to me, like, go at 85, I'd be like, no, can't do it. And I've tried many times to get myself to be able to do it, but it's never stuck. As soon as I've got put under pressure, and had to, like, put out watts to put out big power, as soon as I do that, it's like, yeah, no, I'm standing out of the saddle. Like, and it's just, that's what I'm comfortable with. I was going to say it's that combined with the trainer difficulty. If I could give myself thing as well, by the way, I'm not saying I disagree with you at all. The trainer difficulty, I said this just a little bit before, if you were here, was on 100% trainer difficulty on that climb, I'm basically in the lowest gear I can be in on the bike without, having it be the worst chain line in the world, and making an absolute racket, and just being annoying. I'm in basically the lowest gear I can be in, and I'm still at like 60 RPM around those sections. I actually I don't know how the gear that I have on, the SRAM ETAP, it doesn't allow me to go any more than a 28 in the back. And I wouldn't go into the 28, but 28 is the lowest it can actually change into. I think some people have said it could actually go into a 30. This is the old ETAP, like the original. But it's according to SRAM, 28's the most it can go into. And so, what was I saying? I don't know how people, unless you have a 34, like a 1134, how could you spin up that climb? I don't know. I don't know how it's possible. Like, how do you go? How would you go at 200 watts up that climb and be above 50 RPM on 100% trainer difficulty? I don't know. I have no idea. I thought about this even yesterday when I was blowing up. I was just like, I can't even just be like, oh, I'm gonna take this climb off, and just kind of roll up it. It's like, no, we still need to put power out because it's so steep, right? It's just like the trainer is like to get it over, So, anywho, another comment. Thanks so much, Alex, and thank you for the messages yesterday throughout the stream. That was the other thing with yesterday. It was really fantastic support on the stream. As per usual, you guys were great. Much appreciated. And then after the stream too, got some really nice messages, as I said, including from Magnus, who's the the reigning world record holder, still world record holder. Give me really nice messages, support, saying he was seeing it and how great of a ride it was and everything, and congratulations. And so it was really nice seeing that support from the community. And I think overall, like, this is the beauty of it, is I'm hungry for breaking that time, and then I'm sure someone else is going to come and break it even more, and then, or it might be Magnus breaking it his own, because he looked like he could go even faster. And it's just, this is why I love this community. It's just, we're always, hopefully always building each other up and pushing each other to just new heights, over ride to ride. All right, I'm officially rambling for an hour. Unless there's any last questions, Woods loves to stand careful. Yeah, no, outside actually, I'm it's hilarious. Inside I could stand all day out of the saddle. Outside, it's exhausting. Like on a TT bike, I'm talking. Like my road bike is not a race caliber road bike, so when I'm outside, and I mean when I'm inside, I'm riding my TT bike all the time. It's the bike I'm racing on, and so I ride it all the time. I'm most comfortable on it. Yeah, when I'm outside on a TT bike, being out, and especially because I have the skateboard grip on the base bar, so there's no, like, cushion. Man, it is. I'm sure you would kind of build that section of you up over time, but on that section, short bursts, really short bursts out the gate or something like that. But any length of time, not as fun. And also, one of the guys I remember riding with years and years ago, it was hilarious. He was riding behind me, and this was maybe like my first or second ride of the year outside. At that point, it was like April. And he was watching behind me, and I stood up out of the saddle to go up one of the steeper hills, and he said, "Yeah, no, it looks like you're on an indoor trainer." Even though you're outside, because I was, I guess, keeping my body, like the bike wasn't, swaying as it should. It was just kind of like stiff and just straight lining it, with, tension going up the hill. I'm sure if I, really practiced it, I could probably get a little bit smoother, and I did last year, because I did a lot of riding outside last year, because I have some good areas now to ride, after moving. Any case, man, this was a good ride, this TT. I'm just looking at it now. Whew. Insane. Absolutely insane. The steepest hill of the day on that thing, by the way, this is with a 62 tooth on. And it looks like I only went down to right here. This is the steepest hill. 73. So I went down to 70 RPM. And that's up 9.3%. Yeah, that's the peak. So 9.3% gradient, 73 RPM. That's with a 62 tooth on. And that's as low as I'm going outside. That's remarkable, considering, as I said, like yesterday, I'm sitting at 60. And outside, I wouldn't go 60. Not comfortable with it. Maybe it's because the balance isn't as good outside, and so maybe, the lower, I don't know, no idea. Not as smooth outside as inside. Inside, you don't have to be really skilled to stand out of the saddle. It's like there's no technique to it, right? It's just kind of like lean into it and go. Any case, All right, so we'll talk on. Oh, and by the way, this stream worked. That was in 4K. I was running Zwift in 4K. I think it looked pretty darn clear on your guys' end. And on that note, I will see you later in the week. I'll do one stream just to kind of let you know if I'm gonna stream again on the weekend for the Alp. There's a good chance, put it that way. Yesterday I finished the ride, and this is always a great sign. Someone asked at the beginning, I think Franny was saying at the beginning, how I felt about yesterday. Yesterday, at the very end, I did not want to do the Everest next weekend. This morning, now I do. That sums it up. And so on that note, thanks so much for watching, guys. Thank you for staying around as I ramble for hours and hours. This is why I say I'm the best. If you are looking for someone on a road trip, I'm there. I could talk for 25 hours out of a 24-hour day. No problem. All right. Take care. I will see you next time.